an open week. They're ready to lead the Raging Cajuns down the tunnel of Cajun Field. So that way he can continue to protect his house and improve upon that sterling Sun Belt Conference mark in his career that currently stands at 7-2. Here to talk about this week's matchup with FIU, the head coach of Raging Cajuns football, Mark Hudspeth.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out. Well, I'll tell you, we're glad. I know I'm glad, but as a team and staff, we're glad to be back in the game week. Last week was all fine being off, but coming off a game like we had, sometimes you'd much rather have a quick turnaround, put that game behind you. But nevertheless, it did give us plenty of time to reflect. Last week, our staff, both sides of the ball, took time to do a self-study of our first 3 games. Give us a little idea of what we were doing good, what we need to improve upon, what we may be giving away to other teams. So that was good. Worked on fundamentals, worked on correcting things that we saw that we needed to improve upon in the first 3 weeks. And then obviously gave our coaches a chance to get out Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get a somewhat caught up and a head start on recruiting because we have 2 big home contests coming up. Obviously the biggest one in the history of Raging Cajun football this Saturday. And so we got a lot of recruits coming to town, and so we're trying to get out and secure as many guys on campus as we possibly could. But now back to game week. We're awfully excited to be back in the game week. We've got a big test ahead of us. Preseason Sun Belt favorites coming to Cajun Field, loaded with a lot of talent. You look at their defensive side of the ball, I think it's 6, maybe 6 all preseason Sun Belt players. They've got depth. They've got a dynamic, very active D-line. Their DBs, linebackers, I think are all very athletic, run to the ball. They're a very physical football team, very physical team. They'll hit you. Offensively, the running back Rhodes, he's no stranger to us because he took one to the end zone last year on like the first or second play of the game. And obviously now they've having a couple of quarterback situations because of injuries, but there's no lack of talent in their stable. Hilliard, to me, is probably the future of their program. He is an outstanding talent, and he showed on film in the second half against Louisville what the future may lie ahead for him. He is very, very talented as well as the other quarterbacks, and right now we're not for certain who we're going to see, so we're preparing for all of them. But nevertheless, it's good to be back in Cajun Field. Want to make sure we challenge all our fans. I know they're going to be there. Big home game. Got to have everybody out and in full force for the Cajun Walk and then in the stadium as we eclipse. I'm still looking to eclipse that 35,000 mark and think we can do it this weekend. So with that, I'll open up any questions.
Coach, you mentioned their defense and how and some of the guys they have on defense, and getting a chance to see a little bit of that Louisville game. Something that they have done this year is definitely play to run really well. Very strong up the middle with Fasani, Pounds, Frazier, and Cyprian. Very strong up the middle, and that's going to be a tough task with those guys.
No question. We're going to need to be more balanced. We're going to need to run the football. We've got we still think that we're going to be able to run the ball. We've got some veteran offensive linemen who are still gelling as far as this year, and I think the more we run the ball, the better we're going to get at it. Didn't get a chance to run the ball last week a whole bunch because we were behind, so we're trying to catch up. So we've got to run the ball, we've got to stay with the run a little bit, and then try to become physical, and because it'll be a big test versus their D-line.
Coach, I just asked Blaine this about maybe having something to prove. Just because the Oklahoma State game, maybe you didn't put your best foot forward in that contest, and then an added thing is that last year you guys beat them. Maybe they didn't think you were going to beat them. So maybe something to prove with regards to, hey, we were legit last year. What you saw last week wasn't what you're going to get today.
Right, and I'm sure they probably feel the same way about us. We saw a couple of their games, and you can tell they're still improving. They're getting better, and they probably saw us 2 weeks ago against Oklahoma State, and from what they probably saw of us last year, they'll probably say, hey, they're a better football team than what they showed there too. We definitely got a lot of respect for their program. They've a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but big game for us.
You're talking about preparing for 3 different quarterbacks, running backs. Is it difficult playing so many different options, so many different scenarios? And kind of we talked about Hilliard being different at quarterback and that he's more versatile. two different offenses.
A little bit, and sometimes, you've got to make sure you got all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. And because, certain quarterbacks can bring different things to the table. And based on who's in the game, may make us change a little bit about what we're doing. But nevertheless, you don't want to have too much in to where you're not good at anything. So, and that's what we did against Oklahoma State, way too much. Didn't let our guys play, sort of had them handcuffed, and we're certainly not going to do that again.
Back to last year, what made the game plan work last year, and why do you think it all kind of came together and set the tone for you guys for this season?
Probably a lot of it last year is because we probably did keep it a little bit simple. We were still early in the season. And last year, we're in our first season, early in the season, did not have a lot in. We did come into the game with a wrinkle we did not show, and we felt like that helped us a little bit offensively, moving Ladarius around. That's when we first started really moving him in and out, flexing him, bringing him in the box, tying play action into the spread game, which now we do all the time. That's sort of when our offense really evolved a little bit. But, as a team, I heard Blaine talk about it a while ago, that chemistry really started to gel about that point. And you could just sort of feel it coming. And it's sort of the way I feel right now. Have we totally gelled as a team yet? Not totally. But, you go back and look at the way we played against Troy, which now I think everybody's seeing that Troy's a pretty dang good football team, and the way we played on the road. We've still played some good football, although we didn't show it 2 weeks ago or a week ago. But nevertheless, chemistry is so important. And then we settled on a quarterback, and we gave him all the reps. When you're splitting quarterbacks, they're getting half the reps at practice, they're getting half the preparation. Before that game, we give Blaine every rep at practice, and he got full preparation. And to me, that is critical, especially at the quarterback position.
Coach, what was the point of emphasis during the bye week on offense? What are you guys really working at to get better? What is your game plan going into FIU?
Well, you go back and you look at the Oklahoma State game. We didn't really play with very good tempo there in the first half, and then we really slowed it down intentionally in the second half. Even though we were way down, we had to slow it down to keep the game from really getting out of control. And so obviously I slowed the tempo down to keep that game from getting too far out of control. But we tried to increase our tempo a little bit. We tried to reduce a little bit what we were doing offensively, and we're trying to do a little better job of getting the ball to our playmakers and just being fundamentally sound. You go back and look at some of the mistakes we made in the Oklahoma State game. It's just a missed block here because of poor fundamentals. Maybe a poor throw here, maybe a drop ball here. Things that we can correct. And it's one thing when another team stops you, you got to give them credit. But when you stop yourself, then that's when you got to go back and you got to go back to the work table and get better.
Back to last year, if you guys hadn't pulled that one off, could the season have gone in a different direction? Or how pivotal really was that one?
I'll say this, that game probably expedited our progress at that point. It gave us some instant confidence. And whenever you have a young team, under proven team, or unproven team, and you get a little bit of confidence, sometimes you may start to think you're a little better than maybe what you are. And so we got a lot of confidence at that point with the way we pulled it out, with the way we hung on, with the way we made some critical plays in that game. We had some critical plays we called and got right with the fake punt, with the fourth down play to Ladarius on the 4th and inches. So we was able to dial up some plays. We weren't afraid to dial them up, and our guys executed. And they just seemed to get better each week last year as the season went along because they became more confident. And it's going to be important that we get some confidence and continue to get some confidence. I think our team's confident. I think their feelings are a little bit hurt. I don't think they're not confident. Their feelings are hurt after last week's performance.
And you mentioned their quarterbacks, but I mean they were the preseason conference favorite. After looking at the film, what else? Why are they a 1-3 team right now?
Well, I do think they've played a pretty challenging schedule. You look at Louisville, it's a top 20 team. I know I voted for Louisville in the top 20, so they have played I think a pretty tough preseason schedule. And then they've got a lot of talent, and I'm sure they're just trying to put this thing together like every team in the country. Here we are early in the season, and all the teams in the country right now are playing 1AAs and out of conference, and you're playing a half, and the next half you're playing a full game, the next game, and you you don't have that consistency every week where your guys are playing an entire game. They're being faced with every type of game situation early in the year. Sometimes you get discombobulated a little bit because of the way the games are flowing, whether they're a 1AA game or a game like last week where we were way behind, whatever the case may be, and you don't get into those flow of the games. And so it's important for us to get back into a flow of the game like we did against Troy.
Coach, I thought it was interesting that you said that the team's feelings were hurt. Do you feel like that chip that was very prevalent last year, do you feel like it's kind of back on it? Because everyone was patting their back in the offseason. I imagine after Oklahoma State, it seems like that chip might be back on.
Well, it certainly better be, because if that, this game of football is very humbling. And just when you think you've got it figured out, somebody will tell you that you don't. And I think it showed to us as coaches, players, managers, trainers, everybody involved that, hey, we've got to continue to take these one game at a time, and you better come to practice, and you better come to every game like it's the biggest game in your life. And so we definitely are back on that track this week, I can assure you that.
Coach, the bye weeks, most of us, I'm one of them that we talk in the media about how good a bye week is and how great it is. Is your history that you're sharp after bye weeks in your teams that you coach, or what? How value do you think the bye week?
That's a great question. I did do a little self-reflection on that, and went back and looked at a couple of the schedules and places I'd been before, and looked at how we came out of bye weeks. Had some games where we really came out really sharp. It might have been because of extra preparation. And then I went back and saw a game or two where we did not play very sharp. And you look and say, boy, was that a lack of, did we lose momentum? Did we get sluggish? Whatever the course may be. The thing that I tried to stress upon last week is we tried to keep our foot on the gas. We tried to condition hard. Make sure we kept that edge in our conditioning, because for the first 3 games our conditioning has been fantastic. I don't think anybody's got the magic formula. I think that secret is still out there. I think it all depends on maybe the makeup of your team, their maturity, how they handle things, and we'll see how they handle this off week. But we've definitely, hopefully we used it for the good, and that's getting better fundamentally and improving our team.
Coach, the word out of Miami is that Medlock's probably going to be out for the next 4 weeks. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what was coming out of Miami this morning. So it looks like Hiller to be at least get some snaps in the game. And looking at him, he's very similar to his predecessor Bridgewater at Louisville, who was ahead of him in high school. And I know it's not in the stat sheet, but he had one really long run against Louisville there on a drive call back where he scrambled and stretched the play and got called back for holding. So he's going to prevent some problems because he definitely has a little bit more hops than Madlock.
He does, and he's a kid. If you give him too much of a run lane, and he'll turn a drop back pass into a draw for a big play. If you lose contained, he's got a cannon of an arm. He can sling it down the field. Or if everybody drops back, he's got the legs to break contain and hurt you there. So he does present quite a problem. Very talented kid, and like I said, you want to think he's probably got to be the future of that team for his offensive quarterback.
Couple things you mentioned last week, Delvin Jones at ends. Going to stick with that?
We're going to stick with that. Yep.
And then the safeties. You mentioned that. How are things shaping up there? Any changes there?
Going to leave Delvin there at safety, and then the corners. But we're still going to stay probably with the starting 2 corners. Although TJ is going to get a lot of reps, and he earned them last week. So I expect him to play an awful lot, possibly even start. So those 3 guys are going to play. We'll rotate them and sort of see how they go.
Delvin said stay in.
Yes, sir. All right.
Question.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.